The question on how to become more mobile and more flexible within your own body has been coming up a lot recently. Well, here at Awesome Ninja Fitness, we're about controlling and mastering our body through hybrid calisthenics. And guess what? The answer in order to become more mobile, more flexible is way easier than you think, and it only takes 1 minute. You can do that at the same time of becoming more fit, stronger, and learning skills. The answer is very simple. All you have to do is move. Now that sounds like a very simple answer, so let's expand on that a little bit more, talk about what I mean by that, and actually give an actionable plan on how to become better in that way. You don't have to be holding splits every single day. There's a better and easier answer. As a summary, in order to become more mobile, we're talking about active flexibility, which means we actually need to move in certain ranges of motions so that our muscles are activated, become stronger in those positions. You can do that by starting by any movement-based workout. The easiest way to do that, which only takes 5 minutes a day, and ideally you would get better as you get smoother, you would add more time, would be the animal movements. The next stage would be for you to get stronger in order to get a self-fulfilling cycle in which you get stronger and then you get into certain positions, stronger and then certain ranges of motion. You can do that as simple as 3 exercises such as pull-ups, push-ups, and squats. And the last stage is if mobility and flexibility is the main focus, is to start to add a flexibility routine. Again, could be as simple as possible as 5 minutes. For example, holding the splits 3 times for a minute and a half every single day. When it comes to technique and mobility, such as the animal movements, you can do that as often as you can, such as in the morning or at night, and the extreme version would be 5 minutes every hour. Strength should take at least 24 hours to 48 hours before you can do the exact same quality. If you can do it within 24 hours at the same quality, it needs to be harder. That could be progressions, that could be sets, that could be reps, or you need more exercises. Regardless of where you are in your fitness journey, either you're a beginner or you've been lifting for a while, just adding movement into your fitness regime will really show the difference on controlling your body and feeling good in what your body can do. When I was growing up, I went to the gym often. I had 2 brothers, one that was into football and one that was into hockey, and my dad who was in the military. So being fit and going to the gym was an extreme part of what they had to do day to day, and I learned from that. But I was not enjoying it. That wasn't until I started parkour. And when I started parkour, I was training every single day, just moving. I wasn't lifting weights. I wasn't doing a typical workout plan. I was running, jumping, swinging, climbing. And I remember being the most fit that I ever was during that time. Fitness is a broad term, but I know I felt healthier, more control in my body. I felt more fit. So for me, I had energy, I could do things. I felt like I was in control of myself, not just swollen muscles, which was pretty good to look in the mirror, but I actually just moved. When we talk about flexibility and mobility, a lot of times we're actually talking about passive flexibility and active flexibility. Passive flexibility, how much can we get into the split if we just let gravity do its work, or with extra help, such as someone pushing you into that position, which hurts, which you don't have to. Active flexibility is what can we actually do in those ranges of motion. So think of a person doing a karate kick in which they have to actually get their leg in that position. That is active. So what you need to do is actually strengthen that. So it's something that we call lengthen and strengthen. So first, you need to be able to get your body into those positions, and then you actually need to strengthen those. That is why in traditional fitness, that's the most mobility you actually need if you're doing the full range of motion. So if you're doing ego lifts, such as only doing half or doing things that just have the highest weight, you are not going to be increasing mobility. So because I was moving all the time, I was putting my body into certain positions that you would never hit in traditional fitness. So I was able to control my body a lot more, and then I was strengthening them because I actually had to use my strength in those positions. When you're landing, jumping, climbing, swinging, the environment is kind of forcing you to do the things that you need to do. Now, I'm not saying to just go out and start doing parkour. I mean, I would strongly recommend it, but you do not have to. That is why here, after training over 200 adults on how to master their body, there's a way to kind of simplify it and have you start with just 1 minute a day. The next part about the story is that I realized that people who just started out training with us were not hitting the same benchmarks as I did in the first 2 to 3 months. But I realized that training that I did earlier is a lot of that strengthening that I needed to do. And that's what you see a lot in people in the community and people who start training. It becomes a self-improvement cycle. So first we are strengthening and then we are moving. We're strengthening and moving. And the best part is we're also adding skills to it. So we also have landmarks to get to, such as muscle ups, flips, handstands. It's obviously easier said than done. So here are the 3 stages that I would recommend if you want to become more mobile and more flexible and more control within your body. If mobility and control is more important, then I would start with just movement. If you want to do it as a more traditional workout or something that only takes 1 minute, I would start with animal movements. If you join the community below in our free program, we have animal movements, sequences, how it works, what is supposed to work. We also had a full training on animal movements that you can watch next as well. Basically, you're putting your body in certain positions in order for you to become more mobile and more flexible. It's very similar to yoga, but because there's more time where you're actually on your body, on your arms and on your hands, there's a more strength component to it. Sometimes I call it dude yoga, but it's animal movements. This is the exact same training that we did with our elite athletes in Ninja Warrior during COVID in order to keep their strength, mobility, agility, and everything that they needed in order to compete. We saw a lot of the athletes after, when we started back in-person training, that they were way more control in their body than they were before, which is why we added it as a primary stepping stone in bodyweight training. If you have any limitations, such as being able to put weight on your wrists or any other injuries that stops you from doing any of these basic animal movements, such as being on all fours, being in crab, or just walking in duck, then you might have to find an alternative, which the easier one is just doing a 1 minute to 5 minute mobility workout. Not only are they an amazing stretch, but they allow you to move your body in certain positions that you normally wouldn't do. It's also a great warm-up. If you see the free program that you can get in the community, this is also the warm-up that we do in every single one of our workouts. Remember, the goal of this stage is in order for you to move your body in certain positions that you wouldn't do in traditional fitness, to allow you to get the strength and mobility, because we're lengthening, but we're mostly strengthening in those positions as well. So yes, you'll get more mobile, more flexible, and stronger at the same time. We are filling in gaps that most people have. Think of piling bricks on top of one another. It could be strong, it could be sturdy, but there might be still a lot of holes in between. That's why we add the motor in between the bricks to really solidify and fill up any holes that there might be. How do we actually add these bricks? That would be the next stage, is when you start strengthening. We keep a very simple workout plan, which we have done another full training on, which you can watch as well. The summarized version is you're getting one exercise for 3 of the biggest movement patterns that you would be doing, or at least the most important before you add more or you get stronger or you're ready to move on. That would be the pull, the push, and the squat motion. So that would be the bodyweight squat, which ideally leads into pistol squats. You have the push-up, which can lead into planche push-ups, planche holds, or one-hand push-ups. And then you've got the pull-ups, which eventually will lead into the muscle-up. There are simplified versions of all these moves, which can start with against the wall, all the way until, well, like those amazing skills that we just talked about. There's a starting point for everyone, but that is broken down more in a different video. If you're working on something that is strength, you would need minimum 24 hours to 48 hours in order to do the same progress. And the good news for mobility and flexibility, such as the animal movements, some of the skills, as well as the mobility work, the more often you can do that, the more results you will get. You could do a animal movement workout every single hour, only for 5 minutes, and get amazing results. Now that's not realistic. You could theoretically do this once in the morning and once at night. Imagine just doing a 1 minute mobility routine when you wake up and right before you go to bed, without having to change nearly anything and only doing 1 minute every single day. You're already progressing in order to become the best version of yourself and unlock your potential. The third and final step depends on what your goal is. Since we're talking about mobility and flexibility, this is when you're going to start to add a flexibility routine as well. Again, it only needs to be less than 5 minutes in order to get results. Remember, we need to lengthen, then strengthen. After a couple of weeks, the animal movements are going to feel way more controlled and way more smooth. So now it's going to be able to patch up some of those weaker movements and those weaker positions that we usually don't hit. Think of a dancer. Just because they're starting to feel way more control in their body, they don't just stop dancing. It allows them to get the harder movements even easier. So with the animal movements, that's basically what we're doing. We're getting better at movement and being able to do more confusing, more movements, and more positions. That allows us to build a mind-body connection, as well as those weird positions that we normally wouldn't use, which makes us even more mobile and more in control. And your strength exercises, they have a specific limit on how flexible you're going to get once you get to them. That is okay, because their goal is to make you stronger with the full range of motion. So if your goal is to become more flexible, that is when we add a flexibility routine within your program. If you want to get the splits, this is where we'd actually start holding the splits. Getting a little bit off topic, if you had a specific skill you wanted to master, this is when we'd make those changes in order to add things to get to that skill even faster. And if your goal is strength or just getting stronger, this is when we would add either more workouts, more exercises, or changing the program to focus on that. Again, it all depends on your goal. And today we're talking about mobility and flexibility. So as you can see, it really is as simple as that. Just moving a little bit every single day, you are going to see the difference. And the more you move more often, the more mobile you're going to be, more control you have on your body, and all these skills and workouts that you want to do and want to improve will stack on top of each other. And as you do that, always stay awesome.